Kikahaki just Nakasan. That's my English. My English name is Larry. My spirit name is Wolverine. I'd like to give thanks today. Give you thanks, Creator, for allowing all of us to walk on Mother Earth another day, to bring us all together to where we can put our minds together and make a future for our people, for housing and home. I give thanks to the four-legged, the two-legged, the winged ones, the ones that swim, the ones that crawl, the ones that live above and below the ground. Give thanks to the rooted nation and the mineral nation. Give thanks for the female water that comes from Mother Earth, the male water that falls from Father Sky. And I send all good blessings to all our family members and loved ones. May they all have good health, hope, and happiness throughout their lives.
Home mean to me? It's essential. It's what I need. I need food, I need shelter, and I need fuel.
Home means it's my home. I live here. I can do what I want in my own home.
I think it's a place of comfort. It's a place of family. It's a place of safety.
It's a safe place where I feel comfortable.
A home means to me where a family can live, spend time together, sit down and eat, watch TV, have family discussions, have somewhere where they can sleep at night and feel safe, where they can wake up in the morning, have a shower, attend school, or go to work.
A home, ideally, is a place that's welcoming, that's safe, that's supportive, that has relationships and a sense of community around it.
Well, home means an achievable, affordable living residence within the context of a community that you can engage with and supports you and your family.
My very existence is threatened without a shelter.
My name is Maingan Linklater. I'm originally from Laxville First Nation out in northwestern Ontario, and I'm a proud Ojibwe man. I work for the Manitoba Urban Native Housing Association as a policy analyst. Been living in Winnipeg for the past 30 years. Winnipeg is Canada's largest reserve. You know, there's a bunch of Aboriginal people that, live in Winnipeg. There's a huge amount of social challenges that the Aboriginal community faces throughout, in their, quest to improve their lives in Winnipeg. In order to understand that, the present, I think it's important to understand the past, in terms of understanding, well, what happened to our community that led us to today's present situation. It's good to have that understanding of what happened in the past, but to use it as, as an opportunity to find out, what you can do to prevent anything like that from happening in the future.
When you talk about residential schools, to me it's not just residential schools, it's the whole impact of colonization. Residential schools came in, they took away everything else that wasn't taken away already, right? They started breaking apart families. You're breaking down a whole people. And that's where all of the dysfunctions in our communities have come from, is because people, when they can't deal with something, they look for some way to help them deal with it. If you're suffering from something, so the alcoholism, drugs, abuses, all of that, I think stemmed from the whole idea of colonization.
After the war, there was a concerted effort to do away with, by the Native people, to do away with the residential school system. The impact in the early 50s and 60s was that the people in the communities in the north who had been living on the land were forced to go into communities. What was happening is when people were coming in off the land, there's no real employment in any of the remote communities. More and more people start coming to the urban areas across the country.
Today is not a day of conflict, but today is a solidarity of our people, a great nation that signed the treaties with another nation, a nation that promised that we would share this land, a nation that promised that there would not be any poverty for anybody at all. May God bless you all.
Because if you need it too much, it tends to get hard. I used to make a lot of bannock when I was working at the school. They used to get me to make bannock there. My name is Daisy, and I've been living in Winnipeg now for 34 years. The reserve that I'm from is called Saputawayak. And the reason I came here, the first time I was in Winnipeg was one of my girls was in trouble, and I had to come to Winnipeg to go to court for her. And I never went back. Yes, I am Cree. And I never lost my language. I was in residential school, but I learned how to speak my language when I was 7 years old, and I was bound and determined I wasn't going to lose it. My first year in residential school was I was 9 till I was 16. I went to Elkhorn and Prince Albert, like the residential schools. So like we didn't really spend that much time at home other than summer holidays. I was in Elkhorn, I think from, it's like in Elkhorn, I really blocked out a lot because it wasn't really a nice school. Like, it wasn't what I expected, like, what we were promised. And I think I was there 2 to 3 years.
The people coming to the urban areas from the outlying communities, either reserves or the bush or Métis colonies or whatever, were relegated to the poorest kind of housing, and primarily that stemmed from sheer racism, cultural differences, linguistic differences, economic differences, social differences, and general outlook on life. The people wound up in slum areas, and a couple of the national organizations, primarily the Native Council of Canada, put pressure on the federal government to do something specific with regard to housing for Aboriginal people in urban areas. Eventually, Canada, through Central Mortgage and Housing, put in place a demonstration project. I think one of the first ones was right here in Winnipeg.
The first houses were bought without any subsidy.
Okay.
It was just a group of people who saw a need for housing. They took the responsibility of buying some few older homes, and they just barely fixed them up and rented them out at cost. Well, in the 70s, the housing availability was quite low as well, and we were facing a great deal of discrimination. And there was the availability of houses for low-income Aboriginal families, and again, quite often single-parent, single-mother families, was terrible. The treatment was terrible. Sometimes they didn't even accept their application. When people see that kind of need, they do something about it. And this was one way to do things about it. And they moved ahead and set out on their own initiative to do this. And they did it without any government assistance at first. And it was a slow process that you know, we're doing this, but we need more because now there was no maintenance dollars built in, there was no administration dollars built in. They were just operating on bare bones. And so as time moved on, the need for the housing policy, the housing, national housing policy, Aboriginal housing policy, was clear.